Arguably the greatest part of the award-worthy show that was the 2016 presidential election is the encore. The ridiculous overreactions and double downs, the anticipation of which formed many of my reasons for casting my ballot the way I did.
I just think you're dumb, okay? I think you're fucking dumb.
I know. That's why I did it. Well, my favorite irrational and ironically intolerant double down this week comes from Melinda Byerly, the founder and CEO of a San Francisco-based digital marketing firm who was gracious enough to offer us her prestigious coastal wisdom in a social media post titled "What Middle America Can Do to Get More Jobs in Their Area." Ooh, I wonder what it could be. Perhaps some sound insights on practical economic policy? Maybe a thoughtful plan to incentivize investment and kickstart job creation? Sort of. All I can say is, in this case, go ahead and judge the book by its cover. It's mostly accurate. One thing Middle America could do is to realize that no educated person wants to live in a shithole with stupid people, especially the violent, racist, and/or misogynistic ones. Well, this is my shithole. Middle America is right outside that window, and I have my degree from a coastal campus on the wall behind me, so contrary to your claim, I am indeed an educated person who chooses to live here after spending 2 years in your coastal paradise of San Francisco. But yeah, maybe I'm the outlier and you're just making a generalization. Generalizations that are, of course, otherwise wrong, like how generalizing about race makes you a stupid racist Middle American, or generalizing about sex makes you a stupid misogynistic Middle American. Speaking of which, I'd love to see the basis for calling Middle America racist or sexist or violent. Crime is more easily measurable, and the latest FBI data show a per capita violent crime rate in rural American counties of less than half that of urban counties, a trend that is true over at least the last decade. Are we more racist or misogynistic here in Middle America? Well, it's tougher to measure ideas, but perhaps we can use bias incidents as a proxy. Even if we consider a source inclined to be in Melinda's favor, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the majority of the current alleged bias-related incidents they report are in blue states. California, New York, Massachusetts, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, 6 out of the top 10 states for these alleged hate incidents are blue. And overall, over 60% of the incidents, the SPLC reports, are in blue states. It should be noted these are raw figures, not per capita figures, but if the difference is so obvious, why aren't more ignorant landlocked states topping the list? When big corporations think about where to put call centers, factories, development centers, etc., they also have to deal with the fact that these towns have nothing going for them. No infrastructure, just a few bars and a terrible school system. Yep, when big companies search for places to build factories and call centers, they look for diversity and high quality of life, which is why they choose China and India. Diversity and high quality of life. So if you want jobs, clean up your act and make your town a place that people like us want to live in. Add fiber internet. Make it a point to elect a progressive city council and commit to not being bigots. I appreciate the hubris of sitting hundreds of miles away, geographically and culturally, from other people and saying, hey, vote the way I would vote, or be a piece of trash. If there's only one correct way to vote, why have an election at all? Why not just let Melinda choose every city council in the country? And to the point on fiber optic internet, I get she thinks it brings development and presumably education, and it probably does. But be careful what you wish for, Melinda. What if rural state rubes like me use it to spread our bigotry at faster speeds than ever? Dear Montana Opticom, I write to inquire about fiber optic internet services. I make deplorably bigoted YouTube videos, and I need to distribute them faster than you can type. There are only 2 genders. I guarantee many of us would like to live a more rural lifestyle, or at least a less urban one, but we won't sacrifice tolerance or diversity to do so. We especially don't want to live in states where the majority of residents are still voting for things that are against their own interests just because they don't want brown people to thrive. You caught me. All this time I've been saying I left the West Coast to move back to Montana to escape the traffic and the high cost of living. But it's time I come clean with you. I left it because there were way too many brown people succeeding there. Priorities. I like to drink my morning coffee and look out the window and think, Not a colorful success story in sight. The Midwestern towns that fix this first will attract investment in droves. It's not just tax breaks and fiber. Corporations have to deal with the fact that their best and brightest would rather scrape by in San Francisco than live in a huge house somewhere if it meant dealing with bigots and backwards ideologies every day. That's just not true. The fastest growing states include the unapologetically backward Trump-voting Utah, Idaho, Florida, Texas, and others. People are leaving New York, leaving Illinois, and California is growing at a comparatively slow rate. So that tells us one of two things is true. Either there are indeed houses big enough to offset the cost of your insufferably bigoted neighbors, or the premise that this is actually a choice is fundamentally bogus. Perhaps a false premise born, ironically, in bigotry. And it's that great irony that amazes me. This is what happens when you are so anti-bigotry that you see it everywhere, even in places where it is clearly absent, to the point you don't tolerate or even consider any opinion other than your own. This is a lecture about how everyone else needs to understand, with an admitted refusal itself to be understanding. A lesson in the dangers of ignorance, unintentionally self-illustrated. The good news is most people I've seen didn't take kindly to Melinda's post, even those on her side of the political spectrum, and so she offered an apology. I spoke about Middle America, my birthplace, inartfully and disrespectfully. I'm sorry for that. But artfulness or inartfulness is more about phrasing, more about word choice, more about style than anything else. I regret I was not Shakespearean in calling you all degenerates. What makes this post terrible isn't phrasing. It's the flawed concepts it describes and the flat-out lies it offers. If instead of this artful apology, you instead posted a thoughtful reconsideration of the ideas you expressed, something like, I've thought about it, and I don't think much of what I said is actually accurate. It was born of emotion and frustration, and it's not even really true. That would be a response for which I would have much more respect, but this is just a double down in apologetic clothing. I don't believe your mind is changed at all. This is one of the reasons you might sometimes hear me whisper, keep Montana a secret. Because Melinda, the last premise of yours that we still need to address is perhaps the silliest of them all. The premise that we want you here anyway. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is now at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.